Well, hello and welcome. My name is Rob Finlay and I'm the Head of Digital Innovation for AWS across Australia and New Zealand. Today I'd like to share with you Amazon's culture of innovation. As we work with our customers at AWS, they have often asked us, how does Amazon innovate? So today I'll share what our culture of innovation is and how we do it. We know there are many ways to innovate. We don't claim that ours is the best or the only approach to innovation or that it's perfect. You may know a better way. But we are happy to share details about what we've adopted, the lessons we've learned over time, and what works for us. We'll start with some background about Amazon's mission, which is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. The words that make up our mission matter and are very deliberate. Our mission scope is purposely broad and not limited to specific domains or market segments. It isn't focused on just selling books or e-commerce or technology. The mission is not focused on a single type of customer. Our customers are worldwide and include millions of consumers, sellers, content creators, developers, enterprises, and more. While this mission is broad, it's also specific and laser focused on the customer, which can help us in making better decisions. When there is a choice between different opportunities to, say, launch new features or improvements, a tie-breaking question in our decision process is, which direction is the most customer obsessed? What is the best thing for our customers? So we start by diving deep to understand our customers, what they need or want, where they have frustration or pain in their life. And working backwards comes from those customer needs and it helps us invent new ways to surprise and delight our customers. It's not only about being close to customers and asking them what they want, but deeply understanding their situation and context so we can invent on their behalf. So why have we chosen to center our business on customers? In his 2016 shareholder letter, Jeff Bezos wrote that there are many advantages to a customer-centric approach, but a big one is that customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied, even when they report being happy, and business is great. Even when they don't know it, customers want something better, and your desire to delight customers will drive you to invent on their behalf. Putting the customer at the center of everything you do will provide endless ideas and inspiration to innovate. By inventing on behalf of customers, Amazon doesn't build technology for technology's sake or invent in isolation. Amazon is in a very broad range of products and services. We started with e-commerce retail, first with books, of course, moving to DVDs and CDs, and then expanding into multiple products in different categories globally. We have over 200 tools and services across AWS to leverage the cloud for compute, storage, AI/ML, analytics, and much more. We have a hardware devices business with Kindle, Echo, Alexa, Fire TV, and home security devices. We enable streaming content with Amazon Video, Amazon Studios, and Twitch. We're in consumables with food and grocery retail, Whole Foods, and services like Amazon Fresh. And in physical retail with Amazon Go. The common thread across all these businesses was a need or a pain point our customers were having in their lives and us working backwards to invent on their behalf, even in areas that were outside the scope of our core business. Amazon Go is a great example. The origin of that entire business wasn't around getting into the physical grocery space, as it was simply trying to address a shared customer problem. Is there a way to remove the need of having to wait in line to check out? A lot of things that you can form strategy around, like competitor sets or certain technologies, can change rapidly. At Amazon, we focus on durable needs, prominent customer pain points or desires that we believe will be stable over time. Here's an example from our e-commerce retail business. We focus on durable customer needs around low prices, increased selection, and convenience. Customers are never going to come to us one day and say, we wish prices were higher, or I want less choice and convenience. When you focus on durable needs, you can build sustainable, self-fulfilling flywheels for your business. The flywheel we'll build here starts by focusing on the customer experience and working relentlessly to improve it. By creating a better customer experience, we attract more traffic from new and existing customers. More traffic attracts more demand for our products and services and brings more sellers to our site to reach these customers, helping expand the selection we can offer customers. This also helps achieve greater scale, reducing our cost structure and allowing us to pass this on to customers in the form of lower prices. At AWS, we know what our customers' durable needs are. a breadth and depth of services and features within those services, reliability, availability, ease of use, data security. You'll never find 10 years from now customers saying, I love AWS, but just wish it was a little less secure. Or, I love AWS, but I just wish it was down more often. By focusing your innovation around durable customer needs and building closed loop flywheels around them, the energy and investment you put into them now will still remain relevant and pay dividends 10 years from now. Okay, now that you have a grounding in our customer-centric approach, I'll now talk about how we practically apply this approach across 4 main elements of how Amazon organizes for innovation: culture, mechanisms, organization, and architecture. The first element is our culture. You need people to operate our system of innovation according to a system of common, unifying beliefs. And one mechanism that helps drive consistency in our culture is our leadership principles. At Amazon, we hold ourselves and each other accountable for demonstrating these 16 leadership principles through our actions every day. These leadership principles describe how Amazon does business, how leaders lead, and how we keep customers at the center of our decisions. This slide shows the headlines of these leadership principles. Each has a few sentences of descriptive text accompanying them, which you can read by going to the link shown here. Our leadership principles start with customer obsession, but there's no hierarchy or order to them. You might notice there is some tension between principles. For example, taking the time to dive deep could slow down a bias for action. How do you simultaneously dive deep and think big as well? We have a principle about disagreeing and committing. Our leadership principles are not meant to be harmonious. They are meant to be used together to help us make faster, high-quality decisions. You'll also notice that we say, these are our leadership principles, unless you know better ones. Our LPs have remained consistent over time, but they aren't set in stone. They have changed over time as the company has grown and have been added to as well. We also have a philosophy that everyone in the company is a leader on our mission. And part of that leadership is using these principles every day to help us make better decisions in helping our customers. We also use our leadership principles pervasively. We use them in hiring practices, in discussing the examples that new candidates relate in interviews. They're used to frame the feedback we give each other as peers, and in growth and development conversations between managers and employees. They're a very common vernacular that we really do use every day. Let's discuss a few of them a little bit deeper. Let's look at invent and simplify, for example, specifically because it speaks to innovation. There are many ways to meaningfully innovate with bold, revolutionary ideas. You can also innovate by simplifying. One small, seemingly insignificant cost or time saving achieved can, when scaled across millions of customers, drive enormous benefits for both you and your customers. That innovation can come internally or be inspired by outside ideas. And a core concept of this leadership principle is that to be innovative, you may have to accept being misunderstood for long periods of time. A specific example of willing to be misunderstood is the Amazon Kindle. Many people question the first generation of the Kindle when we launched it in 2007. We were not the first company to develop an e-reader. We didn't have a history of developing hardware. The device was quite big and heavier than most paperback books. And there were questions about why we would build a product that could impact sales of physical books sold on Amazon.com. We believed in the long-term customers would always value the simplicity of being able to easily find a book, download it, and start reading. Any book ever published in any language, all in 60 seconds or less, was and remains to this day Kindle's mission. Simple, reader-centric, focused on the durable needs of accessibility, convenience, and a great reading experience. And of course, we iterated and improved the device. Contrast the original Kindle with today's version, which are light, incredibly thin, more affordable, easy to read in bright daylight or in the dark, with better memory, better performance, longer battery life, and even some are waterproof. Another example of willingness to be misunderstood and long-term thinking is AWS itself. When AWS was launched in 2006, many called it a risky bet. We were getting questions such as, what do you know about cloud computing technology? Don't you need an enterprise sales force? Is this secure? Can you just focus on making your retail business profitable? But at that time, we had learned a lot about building reliable, scalable, cost-effective infrastructure services to support our own needs as our retail business grew. And we thought, well, other enterprises could benefit from these services as well. Jump ahead a decade and a half later, and customers love AWS's innovative services and features, and our continuous reinvestment and innovation on their behalf. As of November 24th, 2021, we've reduced prices 111 times since AWS launched in 2006, and we have over 200 fully featured services used by millions of customers worldwide. Another leadership principle is bias for action, which states speed matters in business. Many decisions and actions are reversible and do not need extensive study. We value calculated risk-taking. So how do we decide when it's appropriate to move quickly? Well, a clue is in the description, whether it is reversible. One helpful mental model we developed is the concept of one-way versus two-way doors. A one-way door will have significant and irrevocable consequences and need deep analysis and deliberation. Examples include building a new data center or fulfillment center. These require careful thought, extensive planning, a lot of capital investment, and are hard to reverse once you start to break ground. A two-way doors has limited and reversible consequences, such as experimenting with a new feature on a mobile shopping app, decisions that you can rapidly make and iterate quickly on, and change based on what you learn, and reverse altogether. When we see a two-way door, we have enough evidence and reason to believe going through it would be a good idea. We just walk through. Either way, we have learned a valuable lesson, usually with only around 70% of the required information we can apply to the next iteration or innovation. So the next element of how we organize for innovation is around mechanisms. Mechanisms are encoded behaviors that facilitate innovative thinking and help systematically address recurring business challenges. They help turn good intentions into action and change. A mechanism is a complete process, a virtuous circle that reinforces and improves itself as it operates. We build tools, such as a piece of software or a process, drive adoption of that tool, and inspect the results to see whether we are having the impact we intended. We then constantly iterate and improve that tool. There are many types of mechanisms at Amazon. These allow us to scale and help leaders operate beyond their direct line of sight. Examples include the and-on cord to allow frontline employees in our customer service teams to remove defective products and information from the Amazon catalog. Another example is reporting processes like our weekly, monthly, and quarterly business reviews that are adopted across all organizations at Amazon as regular, consistent cadences that focus both on the outputs of our business, for example, profit and loss, as well as underlying drivers of the business or its inputs. The hallmark mechanism, though, is what we use to consistently drive customer-centric innovative thinking and execution. It's called the working backwards mechanism. Every customer-facing product or service developed across Amazon uses this working backwards mechanism. We use this mechanism to make sure that we are building the right thing for customers and that we are customer obsessed from the very beginning of any idea. The output of this working backwards process is a document commonly referred to as the PR FAQ. This document includes three distinct parts: the press release, the frequently asked questions, and visuals. It starts, as always, with customers. Who are they? What are their needs? Where do they have pain or frustration in their life? Once you know your customer and their real issues, it's time to generate ideas. So how do you know when you have an idea worth exploring more deeply? How do you determine if your new idea is ready to spend time working backwards and writing a pure FAQ document? Well, we have a mechanism for that, of course. The 5 questions you can see here teach Amazonians to wrestle with these questions as they start thinking about new ideas. Who is the customer more deeply? What are their problems or opportunities? Does your idea make the important customer benefit clear? How do they know what they need or want? What does the customer experience look like? Are good examples. These are deceptively simple questions. You could spend 5 minutes or 5 months to answer these. But using these questions helps to refine your thinking and approach. And when you have answers to these questions, you can then start to write your PR FAQ document. Let's start with the first part of the PR FAQ doc, the press release. The press release is a one-page narrative describing a new product, service, or experience using customer-centric language. With the press release, we leap into the future and imagine how a customer feels and what they might say about a new idea before writing a single line of code. Limiting the press release to just one page forces us to be crisp around how we describe the launch of this new product. In the press release, we communicate who the customer is, what the problem they're facing, describe the solution, and a description of the most important customer benefit that the idea generates. We also include a fictional quote from a fictional customer that records their reaction to this new service. This forces us to put ourselves in the mind of the customer and to think about how they would describe the benefits and value around the launch of this new product or service. The second part is the frequently asked questions. While the PR is one page, the FAQs could be 5 or more pages. And we generally include 2 types of FAQs in a peer FAQ document. The first is focused on customer-focused questions that anticipate the questions they might ask, ensuring that we're always thinking about their perspective. Examples would include, how much does it cost? Or what happens if it breaks? In AWS, that could be, how does this service relate to work with other AWS services? In our retail business, we might ask, how does this affect me if I'm a Prime member or a non-Prime member or I'm a new to Amazon customer? We also include in the FAQs internal questions from stakeholders, such as how this maps to internal goals, business outcomes, financials, why this idea provides a differentiated customer experience, and more. Visuals are the third part of the peer FAQ document and exist to communicate the end-to-end customer experience, helping to add detail where words cannot. All 3 parts of the peer FAQ help to refine the idea and the customer problem that it solves. So once a peer FAQ document is written, it's then shared with teammates, stakeholders, subject matter experts, and so on, obtaining feedback and discussing and debating and asking deep questions. How else could we do this? Should this idea be bigger? Is this the right solution? The first draft is never perfect, not even close, but it allows the team to have a good starting point. And with every iteration or review, all the way through reviews with senior leadership, the document becomes clearer, more refined, and the intended benefits to customers become stronger and more focused. It's a really low-cost way, an effective way, to communicate and democratize innovation right across Amazon. The third element is organization. How do we organize our teams for speed and agility? Well, first you need to find the right people. We hire builders, people who like to invent, people who want to build the future, people who like to look at different customer experiences and assess what's wrong with them and iterate them or improve them or reinvent them completely. So we have a distinctly Amazonian term for the way we organize people to optimize innovation and execution. It's what we call our 2 pizza teams, meaning that no team should be big enough that it would take more than 2 pizzas to feed them. This concept is fundamentally around creating a little startup of 10 people or less, with smaller teams minimizing the need for matrix communication and unnecessary meetings and bureaucracy. This helps accelerate decision-making, and with less technological dependencies and freer access to the tools they need to innovate, 2 pizza teams simply have more time to apply to rapidly innovate on behalf of customers. 2 pizza teams have single-threaded ownership over a specific product or service. Rather than maintaining complex systems or having to solve multiple problems across several lines of business, they can just focus on innovating for their own customers. 2 pizza teams do not have to hand over something they've launched to another team to run. This single-threaded ownership extends to the full end-to-end experience across the entire life cycle of that product or service. What 2 pizza teams do not do, unfortunately, is guarantee success. But you can't have innovation without failure. As Jeff Bezos said in 2015, failure and invention are inseparable twins. To invent, you have to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it's not an experiment. We've had our fair share of failures as well. We had the failure of the auction market twice. We launched Amazon Auctions in 1999, but that didn't pan out so well. Later, we launched Z-Shops for a small fee. Amazon will let anyone set up a virtual store on Amazon to sell their products. But that idea didn't pan out either. But we kept at it. We remained stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. And now Amazon Marketplace is a significant part of our retail business. Last year, over half of paid units were sold by third-party marketplace sellers. And of course, the Fire Phone was a public failure. Only about a year after we launched, we ceased production and had to write down $170 million of unsold inventory. Building hardware is hard. But yet many of the things we learned about building hardware and working with suppliers help us today in our devices business. The final element of how we organise for innovation is architecture. We hire people who are excited to wake up every day and solve customer problems and help build the future. But you need to give these people an architecture platform and a robust set of tools they can use that frees them up from constraints. More than a decade ago, Amazon, like many companies at the time, had a single monolithic architecture. All business logic and features centralized within it, and all teams writing code against this monolithic database. This tightly coupled centralization was efficient when the company was small, but over time, as our business scaled, it began to impact the speed with which we could launch new features or make updates to existing services. This created inflexibility and impacted speed, and we found we just weren't making progress as fast as we wanted to. So around 2000, we started separating our monolith architecture into discrete domains and databases for orders, fulfillment, website, customers, and so forth, and started building single-purpose services in front of them. Today, there are hundreds and thousands of these services across Amazon. The diagram here looks at part of our Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, or EC2 business, with each small blue dot being a discrete service. You can also see some lines or shading that represents how some of these services interact and call upon each other. This shift to microservices also better protected the underlying data and logic and allows services to be launched or iterated upon independently without adding complexity or constraints. By doing this, we fundamentally changed our architecture so that there is no gatekeeper. There's no line to wait for storage, compute, databases, or start using machine learning, for example. This totally changes an organization, impacting the amount of cycles employees spend thinking about innovation because they know if they have an idea, they have a chance to see if it works. This expands the group of people inside a company that are thinking about new ideas from a select few to everyone. And our architecture supports and accelerates the pace of our innovation in three ways. First, we are able to prototype very rapidly. With AWS, you spin up thousands of servers in minutes, and you have access to a very robust, full-featured technology offering that lets you go from an idea to experimentation in record time. Second, we have low costs of failure. When you can prototype rapidly, this totally changes an organization because it expands the group of people inside a company that are thinking about new ideas. And third, we can move to scale really quickly when something works. AWS enables customers to deploy globally in minutes and with the elasticity to instantly scale up or down, along with the needs of the business. Another benefit that helps our innovation is AWS's experience and maturity of its services. Our CEO, Andy Jassy, says there is no compression algorithm for experience. You can't learn certain lessons until you get to different milestones in scale. AWS is a product of the experience we have had over the last 2 decades of the lessons learned from our own growth and scale and moving our own businesses to the cloud. So to recap, these are the 4 elements that go into how we organize for innovation: culture, mechanisms, organization, and architecture. They help us stay customer obsessed, they empower our passion for invention, they help our commitment to operational excellence, and they sustain our long-term focus. So how can you create your own unique and powerful culture of innovation in your organization? It starts by recognizing the challenges that your organization faces. The current wave of enterprise customers adopting cloud today recognizes that they must implement changes, but face cost overruns, security breaches, threats from digital native competition, and a lack of people with relevant skill sets, amongst other challenges. These challenges prevent organizations from reinventing and realizing the benefits they were promised. But many enterprises fail to realize their full potential through reinvention because there is a misconception that digital transformation is just a technology problem. To the contrary, research and experience reveal that enterprises must prioritize their people and culture if they wish to compete in the new economy and fend off digital natives. Enterprises with leadership that align the organization to a shared vision, focus on people and culture, implement new operating models, and become data-driven are far more likely to succeed in their reinvention efforts. AWS works backwards from the customer's chosen outcomes to provide guidance, solution, programs and services that enable enterprises to successfully reinvent. Scan one or both of the QR codes on the screen to get started with your cloud skills training and certification. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to helping you on your culture of innovation journey, and we really value your feedback to help us improve these sessions, so please share your out of 5 rating.